Before we begin, since this is a BBC-owned property, I feel the need to point out that the news arm of the BBC has a continuing issue with transphobic leanings in its news coverage. You can find in a pinned comment below various videos from both myself and other YouTubers covering this issue. And while I understand that the Doctor Who creative team is not responsible for this, I will continue to point this out for as long as it remains a consistent issue. Thank you. There's always time for one last brilliant scene. Hey there, folks. Should probably catch you up on what exactly is going on here. Well, a couple of years ago, a bunch of WhoTubers got together in honor of it being announced that Christopher Eccleston would be returning to the role of the Ninth Doctor through Big Finish audio adventures, and we put together a playlist of videos called One Fantastic Scene, where a bunch of us picked our favorite scene of the Ninth Doctor. And this time, with the end of an era, Jodie Whittaker leaving the part, it's time for one brilliant scene. There is a playlist, whole bunch of other people are involved in this. There'll be a link to the playlist down in the description. So this, for me, selecting one scene was actually difficult. And I know some snarky people are going to be like, oh, I couldn't find a good one. Actually, the issue I had was that most of the episodes I like the best with Jodie Whittaker's era are episodes that don't have a single scene that sort of works as the exemplary moment of the whole thing. Like, I think about the episodes that I enjoy. I love Can You Hear Me? I like Eve of the Daleks. I actually, even now, having rewatched it, still like Power of the Doctor, but there isn't really one single scene that I'm like, that's where it all comes together, the way that I had off the top of my head with Eccleston. So trying to think of something that not only was an episode I liked, but was a single scene that I could point to and go, that. The stuff that I like about Whittaker's era is pretty much exemplified right there. It was tricky. But going through and thinking about my favorite episodes, I did land on one. So it's time for me to talk about It Takes You Away, and more specifically, towards the end, with the Solutract, otherwise known as the frog scene.
Why is there a frog in here?
Now, even though I'm going to be focusing in on this one scene, I do still have a little bit of setup to do. So this is an episode that starts with the Doctor and the fam finding a young girl in a remote area whose father has disappeared. He left and told her, you can't leave the house, there's something out there and it takes you away. She thinks her father has been taken away by this thing. It ultimately transpires that he has passed through what's called an anti-zone linking two different universes to a place where he thinks his dead wife is still alive. Once the Doctor and the companions get there, it becomes clear very quickly that's not what's going on. What they have encountered is something called the Solutract, and that is a sentient universe that has taken the form of initially this man's wife, and then it also tries to tempt Graham by taking the form of his late wife, Grace, who we met at the start of the season, and it wants them to stay. That's it, just stay. And not for some nefarious reason, not for some master plan, not to sap their life's energy, just because it's lonely. Because it is its entire universe. There is nothing else in the place where it exists besides itself. And it wants someone else there. But it's all unstable. It's all coming apart. And if this universe goes, it runs the risk of destroying the connection between this universe and ours, and through that connection, destroying our universe as well. Things are destabilizing. Everything's coming apart. The Doctor has gotten the companions out and needs to also get this guy who was the original person who came here thinking it was his late wife, and she needs to get him away. She kind of pitches herself as a better option.
You want a whole universe. Someone who has seen it all, and that's me.
I will be your company. I will be your friend. I can offer you more than him. I've experienced more of the universe. I can share more with you than he can. You can't keep this whole thing going with both of us here. Let him go, and I will stay. And Solutrek banishes him, and we go into a white void. The doctor walks through it, and then asks a very simple question.
Why is there a frog in here?
And there, on a chair, is a talking frog. Why do I love this so much? Well, first of all, this exemplifies an aspect of science fiction that's actually pretty core to a lot of my favorite science fiction. I'm pretty upfront about the fact that I adore Douglas Adams. And what I like especially about things like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is that it is ridiculous and very, very funny and absurdist. But the absurdism is inherently baked in and justified by the simple premise of
space, it says, is big, really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is.
Anything can be out there, including stuff that makes no sense. It's like taking the ideas that Lovecraft only saw horror in. That somewhere out there are things beyond our comprehension. The universe is so great and grand that we are insignificant. There is madness out there. Whereas Douglas Adams and people with that kind of mentality go, yes, there is madness out there. It's kind of funny. Now, the thing is, this is actually a pretty sincere scene, but you have to address the humor up front because it's a frog. This universe takes the form of a frog. Why?
My own form is endless, but this frog is a form that delights me, as it once delighted Grace.
Because it liked being Grace, and Grace liked frogs, so it just wants to be a frog. So it's a frog. Why do you need more explanation than that? In a universe, and actually in the case of a story like this, a multiverse, this great and grand and multi-layered and bizarre, why can't this just be the way it is?
There's me thinking the day had no more surprises left.
I like that there is no further exploration of why is it a frog? Why not a frog? And when you are talking about someone who travels across the infinite universe, the answer, why not, needs to be valid at least sometimes. It's easy to lean on it as a crutch to just get away with crazy coincidences that saves the story. But you know what? Sometimes you can just have something bizarre happen. And as long as it's not a massive plot convenience, which this is not, I feel like it adds. I feel like it adds to that sense that
The universe will surprise you. Constantly.
and that's something the Doctor herself expresses.
You are the maddest, most beautiful thing I've ever experienced.
Unfortunately, this is where the inevitable happens. The Doctor points out that things are still destabilizing. She can't stay. The Solutrek needs to let her go. Otherwise, they're both going to die. And the thing that I really like here is while there was a melancholy and a sadness,
But the thing I'm going to miss the most is the people.
there is wonderful sincerity when she expresses friendship and amazement towards this frog.
I wish I could stay.
And here's the thing. I know that, say for instance, Matt Smith's Doctor had the mantra, the Doctor lies. Not every Doctor does. Whittaker's Doctor in particular actually seems really bad at it. And I actually think that's part of the reason that she has a tendency to clam up and shut herself off and is not nearly as open to the companions, to the fam. Because she's not good at lying. She's not good at faking it. So when she speaks, when she chooses to say something, there is always a sincerity to it. And she pours some of the most sincere delivery into these lines, expressing sadness, sorrow, amazement towards this frog, and that sadness around the idea that she does have to leave.
if either of us are gonna survive, you're gonna have to let me go and keep on being brilliant by yourself.
There is still very clearly from her delivery. So this really is a really great moment of acting from her on top of the wonderful, crazy bizarreness going on. You really get how sincerely she wishes she could do more. Would she miss our universe? Yes, of course. But I do think she would have stayed if that universe had destabilized. She said she would. I think she would have. Maybe with a hope eventually that she could talk this thing into letting her go again, but that sincerity in the face of something this bizarre, because she has the same instinct to be kind to this sentient universe that was kidnapping people and is now taking the shape of a frog because it's lonely, as she does to her human companions and every person that she ever tries to save. This combines a wonderful sense of weirdness that I love with one of the best acting moments that Whittaker was given, and she just gives such sincerity and care in those lines. And between those things, in an episode that I already enjoyed for the tension and the atmosphere, and again, the weirdness, in an already good episode, this is absolutely one brilliant scene. And that is why I wanted to talk about it, share my thoughts with you. What is it for you? What is a single scene, specifically, not just in the era, but specifically featuring Jodie Whittaker's doctor, that you think is a true standout? I'll tell you the other one I considered. It was from Flux. I think it was the 5th one, Survivors of the Flux, where she has a confrontation moment with the Grand Serpent. That one was in the running. That's a really good scene. But I want to hear more. Even if you didn't especially like Whittaker's era. Because, spoilers, I didn't especially like Whittaker's era. But I can still find stuff that's like, that though. That was good. This video is here for positivity, for celebration. The era's over. What were the good moments? What was a scene you loved? Whatever it is, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Check out the other videos in the playlist. There's going to be some great stuff in there. This was so much fun to do. I had a lot of fun when we did it with the 9th Doctor, and maybe it'll happen again down the line. We'll see. Patreon is how you can support me in particular, and any amount that you can give is of great assistance. But don't worry too much about it. What I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, you are loved, you are brilliant. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. Awesome. Cool. End credits, that means I need to shout out my top Patreon supporters. Robin Moore, Zupin Lutfula, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Linda Walters, Emu Delkey, Leotha Boyd, Toy Loli, Becky Sparks, Renabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shay Lagourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. Thank you so much for your support. You can get your name in the credits too by checking out the rewards on the Patreon. You only tried to eat my earring once this time. That's much better.